Welcome to Word Basics 2. In the last video, we showed you the general layout of the program of Microsoft Word 2016 and let you know that you have a free copy that you're eligible to download using your Chokermail account through Microsoft. This video is going to focus on the functions and the functions that are going to help you in your online studies. So Word is the most frequently used program, and it has a pretty large market share. So if you know how to run Word, you're going to be able to run any other word processing program that's out there. They're very, very similar, but Word is universal out there, and most companies have purchased it, and that's what they use, and that's what we use at the school. So we're going to teach you a few things, and you'll see here on the screen that we have some text. We have a document, and by using some of the tools that we learned last video, we're going to look down into the status bar. And we're going to see the status. We have page 1 of 3, so that tells me we have 3 pages of text. So if I just kind of scroll down, I'm using my scroll wheel on my mouse. I'm scrolling down. I have 3 pages of text. So I have 2 full pages, and then I have a little bit of a second page, so about half or a third page, excuse me. So I have 2.5 pages really, and I have 638 words. And it tells me here, the little book with the X says you have some proofing errors that need to be addressed. And we'll take a look at those here in a little bit. So just by looking at that, we can see those few things. When we're typing in Word, as we type, when we get to this side, which is called the right margin, so we have a left margin and we have a right margin. And when we get to the right margin, if we're just wanting to continue our thought and not start a new paragraph, we're going to use a function called word wrap. And what that does is you type, and as you get to the right margin, it's automatically going to drop you down to the next line so you can continue to type. Okay, type, in the right margin, drop you down to the next line, type. You're done typing, you want to start a new paragraph, you hit enter. When you hit enter, then that tells the program that you are done with that paragraph, you want to start a new paragraph, and it will drop you down to the next line after creating a new paragraph. Okay. You do not have to press enter at the end of every paragraph or every line, because then you're going to have some issues in your formatting. So don't do that. Let word wrap do its thing. So if I come down here, I'm just going to add some text, and I'm going to click, and I'm just going to type the text that's above it. So I'm going to say, when you click online video, you can paste in the embed code, and as I'm going to type 4, it drops me down to the new line. The video you want to add, period, space. You can also type a keyword to, and when I start typing search, it's going to drop me down to the next line because there wasn't enough room to fit that word in on the previous line. Okay. Now, as I'm typing, I am putting a space between each word that best fits your document, period. After end of sentence punctuation, we're going to put 2 spaces, space. That is general typing rules. And if you started your typing.com account after the keyboarding video, you should have practiced that already. So here it looks like we have quite a bit of room. If I type make, it's going to start on that top line, and then it drops it down to the next because we don't have enough room on the line to accommodate it. And look, professionally produced. Word provides. Let's see if this will. Yeah, see, did you see how that did that? So I intentionally misspelled it. So I said Proivides. And as soon as I hit the space, oh, it didn't do it this time. Okay, let's try this. Let's try something else. Let's try ABBOUT. Okay, and I hit space. It's automatically going to change it to about. Okay, so I'm going to Control Z a couple of times. There we go. Provides header, footer, cover, and see, I spelled that wrong, so there was a cover page, and text box designs that complement each other. For example, you can add a matching cover page, header, and sidebar. I just wanted to get all that typed in. Okay, so now we've typed in some text, and you can see how the word wrap function works. When I typed the incorrect spelling of the word about, it automatically changed it for me, and that's called autocorrect. So there are a few words that it will autocorrect for me. So if I type in H-T-E, you know I'm trying to type the, and once I hit the space, it automatically changes it. So it capitalized the T and it changed the spelling so that it's correct. Okay. So how does it do that? There's a dictionary that's built in to the program that allows it to scan it and see if something matches. If it doesn't match, then you get something like this. You get a little red wavy line underneath. Or like this should be pictures, not pictures. You get a little red wavy line that says, okay, this is a potential spelling error. And it's only potential because it isn't in the dictionary, so it doesn't have anything to compare it to. It says, so wait a minute, we might want to take a look at this. You know, sometimes you'll see proper nouns, they get underlined. So I know Wishkah is spelled correctly. In this case, when we run the spell check, we would have the option to add this to the dictionary so that the next time we use this word, it will automatically see it in the dictionary and it won't tag it as being a potential spelling error, okay? Then we have, if we scroll back up, we see a blue line underneath this word. So for example, you can add a matching cover page. So it's saying with the blue line that this is a contextual error. Okay, contextual meaning that the word is spelled properly, but it's not being used correctly. It's not being used in the correct context. So in this case, we should have ADD versus AD, because AD is simply an ad, like you're advertising something. And this is talking about actually adding something or putting something together with something else. So we would have the ADD to denote that. So that's what the blue line means. We have contextual errors and we have spelling errors. We have a blue wavy line or we have a red wavy line. Now older versions of Office have a green wavy line for contextual or grammatical errors, and I think you can see a green wavy line every now and again in 2016, but I've not seen one in quite a while. So we're going to stick with blue and we're going to stick with red. Okay. So, and we can change all of that when we run the spelling and grammar check. And so I just wanted to show you what happens when we have that. So there's also another thing that's called autocomplete. So I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom and I'm going to hit enter because I'm going to start a new paragraph. And we're in the month of August right now, okay? So I'm going to start to type August, and it says, oh, are you trying to type August? So it says just above it here, you can see August, press enter to insert. So if that's what you're trying to type, you can simply press the enter key and it will enter the rest of that text for you without having to type it. If I hit space, it says, oh, hey, today's August 28, 2016. Is that what you're trying to say, or that what you're trying to type? And if it is, you press enter. If it's not, you just continue to type and it will go away. it's called autocomplete, and it tries to help you complete words or phrases or things of that nature so that you can save a little time when you're typing. So it just, in this case, that's exactly what I'm trying to type. So I'm going to press enter, and it entered that for me. I didn't have to complete typing August 28th, comma 2016. Okay. So, and now if we take a look, there's a couple of other things that we can take a look at. We're going to take a look at line spacing. So this basically is 1.15 would be my guess. Well, it looks like it's just 1. Okay, so this is single space in these paragraphs. So we have a couple of different types of spacing. We have line spacing and we have paragraph spacing. So line spacing deals with the space between the lines in a paragraph. So this whole thing right here is one paragraph. So when we talk about line spacing, it talks about the space that we have between each line in this paragraph. Okay, so if I want to change the line spacing in this paragraph, I'm going to come up to the paragraph group. The paragraph group is going to have all of the options that I need to make my paragraph look different. So I'm going to come over here. This is the line and paragraph spacing button, and if I click the drop down, I have the option to double space. Now, in most cases, you're going to need to double space because your instructors are going to want you to do that so that they can make comments on your documents. Okay, so we're going to choose double spacing, and that double spaces the text. So it double spaces the lines of the paragraph, okay, the lines that are contained within one paragraph. Now you'll notice I only had my cursor flashing in this first paragraph. When I changed the spacing, it only affected the paragraph that the cursor was in. If I wanted it to apply to everything, we could either, there's a couple different things we could do. We could click, click, click in the left margin. Okay, so remember I said this is the left margin. If we click, 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 that's triple click, it selects everything. I could have used a keyboard shortcut, and we talked about keyboard shortcuts in the Keyboarding Basics video. If I hold down my control key and then press the letter A, it automatically selects everything in the document, okay? Or we could have clicked right here in front of video, held our left mouse button, and moved our mouse down our document until all of the text was selected. Okay, so there's a couple of faster ways to do it, definitely, right? That takes a little bit of time. There we go. Now we have all of our text selected, and that took a lot longer than holding Control and pressing A, right? Or even triple clicking in the left margin. So there's always different ways to do these things. You have to figure out which is the easiest for you or which you like doing the best, okay? So let's go ahead, we're going to Control A, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say I want all of this document to be double spaced. So now instead of having 3 pages, we have 6 pages, excuse me. See, it just updated for me. So here's page 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. So you see how that makes a difference, okay? All right, and then we talked about, I said that we had 2 different types of spacing. We have line spacing, we have paragraph spacing. You're probably not going to use paragraph spacing too much, but the line spacing deals with the space between the lines in a paragraph. The paragraph spacing deals with the space before a paragraph or after a paragraph. So if we take a look here, we say add space before the paragraph, or we can remove space after the paragraph. Okay, so this is telling me that we already have space after. Do we want to remove it? And then this is telling me that we don't have any space before the paragraph. Do we want to add some? Okay, now remember we talked about this little guy right here. This is the dialog box launcher. If I click this, I'm going to get the paragraph dialog box, and I'm going to have other options. And one of those options is the spacing. So here this is saying spacing. This is before the paragraph. This is after the paragraph. This is line spacing. So we have double spacing chosen. We've already done that from the little button up here. And here if we wanted to add space before the paragraph, again, if we only have our cursor in one paragraph, paragraph. That would be this one right here. And we change this, it's only going to apply to the paragraph where your cursor is currently located. Okay? If we want to change the paragraph spacing for everything, we would then have to Control A or triple click in our left margin to make sure that we have all of our text selected. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and cancel here. Okay, let's see here. We talked a little bit about the margin, so these are our margins. By default, now that again, default is the preset configuration. So by default, we have a margin that is 1 inch all the way around. So we have a 1 inch top margin. We have a 1 inch bottom margin, and then a 1 inch left and a 1 inch right. Now, when we talk about margins, we're talking about how the page is laid out, okay? So if we think about that logically, we would probably click on the Layout tab of our ribbon, right? So we have Layout. Oh, there it is. There's margins. Okay, so we have to think about things logically and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to change, what we want to see, what kind of settings we have. How are we going to get there? And we can usually think about that as to what we're trying to do to find out which tab we're going to click. So this is the Layout tab. I'm going to come over here to Margins. And so here it says these are our normal tabs. This is what we have selected. You can see the dark box around this one. Okay, so if I move my cursor off, you can tell it's selected. Normal, top one, bottom one, left one, right one. They have some other preset configuration. So we have a narrow one, which would give us a 1/2 inch all the way around. Now if we make the margins smaller, that essentially gives us more space for text on the document. Okay, so we could manipulate and make our text flow differently by changing our margin settings. Okay. So here we have a moderate, we have a wide, a mirrored, and then we have the Office 2003 default. So the old one, we used to have an 1 1/4 inch on the left and the right, which essentially gave us less room for text, right? So if we change it to a 1/2 inch, look what happens. I have page 1 of 6. I'm going to click on 1/2 inch all the way around. So now I have a 1/2 inch on the top, 1/2 inch on either side, and then a 1/2 inch on the bottom. So now I've taken that from 6 pages down to 5, okay? And I could probably get rid of that. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this superfluous text that we don't need. And here I've actually got it down to 4, okay? So I got rid of all that other text that we actually didn't need, okay? And we have 707 words now. I can also come over here to Margins, and I can say I want to set some custom margins. So if I click Custom, then this Page Setup dialog box pops up. I can also get that by clicking this little guy, this dialog box launcher, and I've got my margins. So if I say, okay, I want the top margin, I want it to be 0.7 all the way around. I can use these little toggles to increase and decrease by 0.1. Okay, each one, or I could actually type in here. So if I want this to be 0.7, I can say, okay, I'm going to increase that to 0.7. And then I want the bottom to be 0.7. And I want the left to be 0.7. So if I just click in there and type, then I can do 0.7. Now you want to make sure that you actually have the point in there, because if you type 7, that means 7 inches, and a piece of paper is only 8.5 inches wide. So if you type 7 in there, you have a 7-inch margin. You've got about 1 inch of text. That's it. So you want to be very careful about how you enter those in. So you can type them, or you can use the radials. Okay. Another thing to look at here in the page setup is the paper orientation. So there's 2 types. You have portrait orientation, which means that it's going to print taller than it does wide. And then you have landscape, which prints wider than it does tall. Okay, so portrait is the normal, is the default setting, and then landscape would be something else. So if we click landscape, you can see it down here in the preview, and I tell it okay, and see now I've changed from 8.5 inches on the top to 10 or 11, sorry, it's 8.5 by 11. So I have 11 inches at the top, and then I have 8 inches on the side. So you can see the difference there. I'm going to go ahead and change it back, but I can change it back using just this orientation button right here under the layout. So I'm going to click portrait. See, there we go. Now we're back to portrait. And we have 5 pages. And didn't we just have 4? We did just have 4. Oh, because we changed it to 0.7. So that, see, that caused it to go down a little bit. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So the next thing we would want to maybe take a look at is indenting our paragraphs. So here I already have the text typed, and then I decide, well, you know what, I think I want to do a left indent. So I want to have, actually I want to do a first line indent, where I want to have the first line of every one of my paragraphs indented into the 1/2 inch spot here. Okay, so we could come over here and we could say, okay, I'm going to use my tab key. Remember, we talked about the tab key in Keyboard Basics. So I could come over here and say, okay, this is tab. I'm going to tab it in, and that's going to take me into that 1/2 inch spot. So that's exactly what it did. I'm at my 1/2 inch spot. And if I come over here, I could do that with this one. Okay, and then I could do it with this one. And then I have to scroll down and I have to say, okay, I want to do it with this one. Oh, Control Z. Remember, Control Z, undo. And tab, and then I'm going to find this one and tab. Now it's taking a little bit of time, isn't it? Okay, and we're going to actually undo that because I clicked on the wrong thing, and then tab and tab and tab. Gosh, it's taken a long time. Now, what if you had, you know, a 20-page document? Ouch, that would just take forever, wouldn't it? So there are other ways to do this. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to undo all these until I get back to the top of my document. It's easier to undo than it is to do. Okay, so I'm going to redo that. So here I am back at my document. So here what I want to do is I want to indent all of the paragraphs, just the first line. I'm going to triple click, 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 or I'm going to Control+A to select the entire document. Then I've got these little guys up here. So these are my indent markers. So if you take a look, there's 3 sections. So we have the top section, which is like a diamond pointing down, and then the second section, which is like a diamond pointing up, and then we are a triangle, excuse me, and then we have the little box at the bottom. So the first one is a first line indent. If you click on it and pull it in, oops, click on it, there we go. See, it says first line indent. It came up with a screen tip. So I click on this and I say, okay, I want to pull in all of my selected text, the first line of every paragraph that's selected. I want to indent that at the 1/2 inch mark. So now you can come down here and look, and every one of my paragraphs has been indented into that 1/2 inch mark. And we didn't have to do them manually. We can do them using our indents up here on the horizontal ruler. Okay. Now we could also do, I'm going to undo that. We could also do, let's Control A, there we go. We can also do a hanging indent. And so when would you use a hanging indent? You usually use a hanging indent for references, okay? So your instructor says, okay, I want you to write a paper, and you need to make sure that you cite all of your sources, and so you're going to do that in APA style or MLA style or whatever you're doing, science or English or what have you, and you would follow those rules. So there's a way to actually create a bibliography in Word, or you could just type it out. If you're typing it out, you're going to use what's called a hanging indent. And so let's do that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to select all of this text, and this time we're going to use the hanging indent, and we're going to come over here, right here, to this little guy. He's the second little triangle that's pointing up. And so we're going to grab him and we're going to pull him into the 1/2 inch mark. So what that does is it leaves the first line of a paragraph at the left margin, but it moves all of the remaining lines in that paragraph into the 1/2 inch mark, or wherever you drop this guy, okay? So now we have all of these paragraphs have been hanging indented into the half-inch mark. So all of the first lines are at the left margin, where all of the rest of the lines in the paragraph are at the half-inch mark. Okay, Control Z. Then there's a third one. There's called the left indent. You probably won't use that very frequently. You use it usually on like quotes. Somebody says a quote, so you would bring the left indent in and the right indent in, and then you would make it smaller than the rest of the text so that you could bring someone's attention to it. But a left indent is this little square guy, and so what it does is it brings all three of them together into one point. So we've pulled in all of the lines of text in every paragraph into that half-inch mark. Okay, so that's how you would use a left indent. And then, of course, you could always come over here. This is a right indent. It only does one. So you could come over here and say, okay, I want my right indent at 6. Okay. Again, you're not going to do the whole text that way. So let's change that. Let's redo that. Okay, so if we come over here, let's say that this is a quote. Okay, so here we might say, all right, let's go ahead and grab this in. We're going to do this to the 1-inch mark, and we're going to do this at the 5.5-inch mark, and we're going to make sure that this one is actually single space, and here we have our quote. Okay, so you would bring attention to that quote, and I would probably justify that text as well, so that we have a very unified left side and a very unified right side. Okay. All right. So again, that's your left indent and a right indent, and this would be considered a quote. Okay, that's usually what you'd use that for. So I'm going to undo that. There we go. All right. Next thing, centering text. So by default, we have text that is left aligned because that's how we read. We read from left to right. Okay, so we always have a very uniform left margin, and sometimes our right margin is a little choppy. Okay, so that's left aligned. And then we have center aligned, and what that means is the text is going to have as much space between the left margin and the text on the left side as it does from the text to the right margin on the right side. So here I'll type a title. This is a title. Okay, and so this is the title of my document, and if I say I want to center this, you'll see that it centers it on the page. And so I have equal distance from the left margin to the text here, and I have equal distance from here to the end of the text to the right margin on both sides. That's centering. Okay, so you'd want to center a title in most cases. And then we have right align. So very seldom are you going to right align something. You might right align a date. So if we had something like August, and remember we can, it'll type the date out for us, and I'm going to hit enter. So I have the date here, and I might right align that. You're not going to right align a lot of text because that's just not how we read text. We don't read text from right to left. We read it from left to right. So you might have a couple of lines right aligned, but the rest of them are going to be left aligned. And then this last one is going to be like, again, this is in the paragraph group. So here we have justify. And so when I justify text, that means I'm going to have a very uniform left margin and a very uniform right margin. It places space between words so that they flow a little better. Most periodicals use it. You know, you have magazines and newspapers, and it's very easy for your eye to maintain the flow of the text when you're using justified text. So again, we would put our cursor in the paragraph that we want to justify, and then we would come over here and click the justify button, and you could see how that changed. So here I have a very uniform left margin, very uniform right margin, and here is the text below it that is not justified, and you can tell that it's not justified. This is much easier to read. You can see there's extra spacing between words. Okay, best fits your document. There's a bunch of space between best and fits and your document. Okay. So that's justified. Let's see here. I'm just going through the list here. And then we have fonts. So if we come over here and take a look, usually for a title, we would have a different font type or font size, or maybe even both, because we want to kind of differentiate that from the rest of the document. So we would select the text. And again, we can either click one time on the left margin to select one line, okay? Or we could have come over here and clicked in front of this and just brought our cursor across to select the text. When we do that, we get this little guy that pops up. This is called the mini toolbar, and you can use this or you can use that. Okay, so if you want to use the mini toolbar and it's gone away, you just select the text again and here it is. We can change the font type. So if I come over here and say, okay, I want to change my title to Broadway. Okay, I've used that before. Oh, let's try it to 40. There we go. I want to change it to this, and then I want to increase the font size. I can come over here and click this drop down and say, oh, I think I want that to be 48. Okay. Or we could have clicked the grow or the increase font size, okay? Or we could have clicked the decrease font size, right? Okay. I have a lot of space here after this paragraph, so I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to come up here, right here, and I'm going to say I want to change that, and we're going to change it to 0. All right, so that's just too much spacing. Anyway, so we can also change the color. So I'm going to come up here and use this instead. You can see we've already changed Forte and 48. I'm going to come over here and change the color. I'm going to say, oh, I think I want this to be this dark green, okay? And when you choose a color, it gives you an actual color. It says green accent 6, darker 50%. This is green accent 6. So then all the colors underneath it are a variation of that. So we have green accent 6 lighter by 80%. So this is 80% lighter than the original accent green. And so the next one down is going to be lighter 60%, and then lighter 40%. So as we move down this list here, this line, it's going to get progressively darker. So the next one is going to be darker by 25%. So this is 25% darker than the original green accent 6, okay? And then we have green accent 6, darker 50%. And it goes the same for all of these. Now your theme colors, that all has to do with the theme that you've selected. And by default, this is the office theme. So if there's a color that you want that's not here, then you might need to click on more colors, okay? Or you can come over here to design and you can change the color of your theme. So if we take a look and click colors, oh yeah, I think I really like this palette a lot better. So we click that, and then we can come over here to home and we can say, okay, I want it to be this. So here is a completely different palette of colors. So here's this bright, vibrant blue, and here I'm going to go ahead and click that. Okay, so that's how you would change the color, the font color, the font type, the font size. Okay, we could actually italicize this. Usually titles are italicized. So that's the font, and you can play around with those, and that's going to make things. That's going to make your document pop a little bit. Now, don't use too many. You shouldn't use any more than 3 different font types in any one document, and a lot of times your instructor is going to tell you what font type they want you to use anyway. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, the change case. So if I come over here and take a look at this, so I have this is a title, and so the I isn't capitalized and the A isn't capitalized and this T isn't capitalized. I'm like, man, I have to type this over again. Okay, well, I don't really have to. If I select the text and I come over here, this is our change case button. If I click this, it says, okay, so what do you want to do? I want to capitalize each word, right? And I don't want to have to retype it again. So if I tell it to capitalize each word, now I have this is a title and everything is capitalized the way it should be. Now we could probably take this and that should just be A, because that, you know, it's usually not capitalized unless it's the first word in a sentence. So here we have this is a title and it's all been capitalized like it should be for a title, right? Okay, so we can use this change case button to do that. And you've got sentence case, you have lowercase, you have uppercase, you have capitalize each word, and then you have toggle case, which would then of course give you a small first letter and then large or capital the rest of the letters in a word. So okay, let's see here. So we've talked about margins. How about page numbers? So, you know, we have 5 pages here, and if we print this out, we might get confused as to which page goes where. So it's always a good idea if you have a multi-page document to insert a page number. I just said insert, right? So maybe that's the tab that we should click on. So let's click on insert. Oh, here it is. So we have page numbers, okay? So we're going to insert a page number. So if I click this little drop down, it says, do we want to put the page number at the top of the page? Do we want to put it at the bottom of the page? Do we want to put it in the margin? Do we want to put it in the current position? More than likely, you're going to either put it at the top or the bottom. That's going to be usually up to your instructor. They're going to say, put page numbers and make sure they're at the bottom, or put page numbers and make sure they're top, okay? So you're going to follow whatever they say, but this is how you do it. You go into the page number, insert page number, and let's just say we're at the bottom of the page, okay? So here we have plain number 1. This is going to put a page number on the left-hand side of every page of our document. And then we have plain number 2, and that's going to put a page number in the center of every page in the footer of our document. And then plain number 3 is going to put one on the right. So if we just kind of scroll down, we'll see all the different types that they're giving us, okay? You can create your own if you want. There's a whole bunch here, but we're just going to choose something pretty plain. I'm going to tell it that I want a plain number 3, so that's going to put a page number on the right side of every one of my pages in my document, okay? So when that happens, now we have the header and footer tools. And you can see that my text in my document is a little bit grayed out. Okay, and right now I have a footer, and if I scroll up, I have a header. So I have header and footer tools. So this is considered actually a footer or a header, depending on where you're putting it. So you get some extra tools to deal with those specific things. So only when you have your header and footer active, you're going to have the header and footer tools and design tab. Okay, so here's the first page, and you're like, oh, you know what? I don't think I want a page number on the first page, but I want it on the rest. So I have 2, and I have 3, and I have 4, and 5. Okay, so I don't want the first page number 1. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want to give it a different first page. So if I click that, it takes that out of the first page, but it leaves all of the other page numbers there. And that's just the way I want it. Okay, you could also change different odds and evens, things of that nature. We're not going to get into that here. This is just how you add a page number, and then you're good. You can format these just like you could anything else. If I come over here, I've selected it, and I say I want to make those blue, all of my page numbers would then be blue. Okay, so you can format it just the same as you format text that's within the document itself. Now I'm going to come over here. I can either click the X right here, or I can double click within my document to make these close. Okay, so if I click, okay, now my page, the tab for my header and footer went away because I'm no longer in my header or footer, right? So if I want to get back into my footer, I could click down here, and then that brings the header and footer tools back. Okay, now your instructor may want you to put your name in there too. It just really depends, but for now we're just going to put a page number. Okay. All right, so now we're back to our document, and we can do all kinds of things in here. We can insert pictures. So you might not do this very frequently, but it's always a nice thing to know how to do. When you first insert a picture, it's going to insert where your insertion point is. So, you know, as you type, you have this insertion point, right? So here I've got this flashing cursor, okay? And if I type something, that's where that text is going to go, right? So that's our insertion point. So if I come over here and say, oh, I think I want a picture on the second page of my document, I'm going to click. So here's my insertion point flashing at the end of this paragraph. I know I'm in page 2. I can come over here to insert, and I can say, okay, I want to insert a picture. So we have picture and we have online picture. So if we click picture, that's going to have us search our computer for a picture. Okay, so I have pictures, and so if I scroll down here, there's all the pictures on my computer. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click this. Oh, let me just click my dog. I'll show you my dog. This is my Roxy. So I'll click this picture here, and I'll say I want to insert this. When I insert the picture, it is considered an inline graphic. So it pushes text down and it makes things all weird. I want to make this a floating graphic. And when I inserted it, now I have this Picture Tools Format tab. So I can work with this picture, okay? So I also have this little guy right here. This is our layout options, and I want to apply a text wrap to it so that it will become a floating graphic, and I can move it anywhere in my document. At this point, I can't move it anywhere without using my, I can't move it without using my space or without using enter, okay, because it's in line with all the other text in the document. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want it to have tight text wrapping, okay. You have this anchor. It has to anchor somewhere, so it anchors to usually a paragraph. I'm going to make this smaller. It's quite large. So I'm going to come over here. I have some sizing handles. So I have a sizing handle at the bottom, at the top, either side, and on every corner. If I use the corner sizing handles, that's going to allow me to increase or decrease both the height and the width at the same time. I also can decrease or increase the height and the width over here, but it will do it proportionally, okay? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay? And you can see how the text is kind of flowing around it, okay? So here, if I grab this, now I can move it anywhere on my document. Before, without giving it a text wrap, I couldn't do that. And you'll see the green line that popped up. This is called a Smart Guide, and this is telling me that I'm directly in the middle of the page horizontally, but not vertically. So if I come over here and move this down, it's going to move down with me. Come on. Here I am. I am directly in the middle of that page. See, the Smart Guide is vertical and horizontal at the same time. There we go. So I'm at the middle of page 2 with my doggy picture. Okay, and that's how you add a picture. With the picture selected, you have the Picture Tools Format tab. You can change the colors. I could come over here and I could say, okay, I want to make this like a green hue. I could come over here and say I want to give it a picture style. This is the More button. If I hold my cursor over one of these, it gives me a Windows Live preview that says this is what this is going to look like if you choose this particular picture style. So I really like this one. Let's do this one. I like that one. Let's do this one. Okay, so here I've chosen a picture style. It gives it a frame, and then I could do a bunch of other things with it, but that's a little bit out of the scope of this class. So here's my picture. I've changed the color. I've given it a picture style. When I'm done with that, I can click off of it. The tab goes away, and then I can just go on with the rest of my document without any problem. Okay. We talked about cut, copy, and paste in the file management video, but we're going to talk about it shortly here. And so, you know, cut, copy, and paste is pretty universal throughout the entire computer. You can use it to move items. You can use it to move text in different documents. You can move documents into folders. You can move folders into folders. You can do a lot of different things with cut, copy, and paste. So with text, we're going to grab, let's just grab like the first sentence. So we're going to grab this and we're going to say, okay, I'm going to select it and I'm going to say I want to cut this. So when I cut it, remember it removes it from its original location. So we're going to cut and it's gone. Well, it's on the clipboard. If I come over here and say, okay, I want to put this over here. Let's just put this here and then I can paste it right here. It's a paste, or I could right click and I could choose paste, or I could use Control+V on my keyboard. Okay, so that's cut. If I want to copy something, I can say, okay, I want to copy this. Let's do this. I want to copy this. This is all I want to copy. I know it's not all of it, but now I can do copy or Control+C, remember, and then it's on my clipboard, and it's essentially removed the other text that I just cut. Now with Office, you can use the clipboard to hold 24 items. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this little guy right here, and it launches my clipboard. You have to launch the clipboard before it will start collecting items. It'll hold 24 things, where the clipboard on the system will only hold one. Remember we talked about that? Okay, so this will hold 24 items versus one item for the system clipboard. So I can come over here and I can say, okay, I want to copy this. Okay, I'm going to copy that. So now I have two things, okay? And then I want to copy this. And now I have three things. So you can see them adding up over here. So once you hit 25, once you hit 24 and you go to get that 25th one, the very last thing on the list, which was the first thing that you grabbed or you copied, will fall off of the list. So you can manage your list. Okay, oh, I don't need this anymore. So you can click this drop down and say, I want to delete this. So then now that's gone. Okay, so now you can hold more items on your Office clipboard. The Office clipboard can be used across different Office programs as well. So if I went into Excel right now, we're not going to. If I went into Excel right now, I would see these two items right here on the clipboard for Excel, and I could paste these into an Excel cell or an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, and it would still denote that it was from Word, but I could still use the text in another program. So, and then this will remain active until you close the last Microsoft Office program that you had open. So if you had Word and Excel open, even though we launched this in Word and we closed Word, as long as Excel was open, it would stay on that clipboard. But as soon as you close Excel, all of the clipboard contents are gone except for that last thing that's still on the system clipboard as well. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, rewind it. Go back and listen to it again, okay? Okay, so now our document's done. Okay, we have completed our document. We're happy with it. We take a look at our status bar and we see this guy down here. He says, uh-oh, we have some errors or some proofing problems with this document. And as we scroll down, we see a blue wavy line and we see some red wavy lines. And we know that those are spelling and grammar errors, right? So Word gives us this special tool called Spelling and Grammar Check. And ideally, you're going to have your insertion point at the very beginning of your document. So if you don't have your insertion point at the beginning of your document, it will still spell check it, but it spell checks it, or it starts to spell check where the insertion point is located. So it will run from the insertion point to the end of the document, and then it will say, it'll come up with a pop-up and it'll say, we've gone through the end of your document. Do you want to start again at the beginning so that we can get the rest of the document? Okay, so it kind of cuts out that second step there. So to get to the beginning of your document, so we're at the end of our document. To get to the beginning of your document, very, very easy, we're going to use a keyboard shortcut. And so we're going to use the CTRL button, and we're going to use the Home button. Okay, we talked about that in Keyboard Basics. So if I hold Control down and press Home, that takes me to the very beginning of my document. So did you see what happened there? It took my insertion point up here to the beginning of August. That's the very beginning of my document. Okay. So with that, now we can go ahead and we can start our spell check. And if we think about this logically, spell check is a review item. We're going to review our document. So yep, that's right. We're going to click on the Review tab. Okay. So if we come over here, under Proofing, we see spelling and grammar, right? We also see a keyboard shortcut for that. So it says spelling and grammar, and then in parentheses, it says F7. Now remember we talked about the function keys at the top of the keyboard. So this is one of those times when we could use a function key and we could launch or start the spelling and grammar check, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to press F7 on my keyboard. I could also click the ABC spelling and grammar check, whatever. Either way is fine. So I'm going to hit F7, and you look on the right hand side, this thing pops up. Okay, this is a navigation pane, and so it says grammar and it says AD. So we already talked about that. We know that it should be ADD because we're in the process of adding something to something else, so they're going to be combined. So we have one option. It says add. I have the option to ignore or to change. I'm going to tell it that I want to change. Now if you look down here, it also says an ad is an advertisement, a commercial, or a trailer. And then add, ADD, is enhance, insert, or total. Okay, so it's telling us why it's a grammatical error. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to change. I want it to change. You'll also notice that it highlights it over here in the document as it comes up over here. So I'm going to tell it to change. Then it's going to come to the next problem, or the next instance, and this time it's a spelling problem. Okay, the last one was a grammar issue. This is a spelling problem. It has highlighted it over here for me. So I'm going to take a look at the sentence. It says click it and this should be button, B-U-T-T-O-N. So we have a few options here, and button is the one that is selected. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell it to change. That's the right one. And then it's going to come up to the next one, and this is a spelling error. And I've misspelled reach. I've transposed the A and the E. So it should be R-E-A-C-H, and that's exactly what we have here. And we're going to tell it to change. So we have the option to change or to change all. So basically, if you know in your document that you have other instances of the misspelled word reach, you click change all, and it will change all of those instances. We're just going to click change because I want to see each thing. The next thing is help, and again it knows that this is a spelling error. So we have help, hop, hip, hack. So we know it's help. We're going to go ahead and make sure that's selected and click change. And then we have, okay, Word provides header. Oh, this should be footer, F-O-O-T-E-R. So here we go. It's footer and change. And then we have video provides a powerful way. So that's way right here, and change. And then we know this should be pictures, and here it is, and change. And this should be table and change. And so now it says spelling and grammar check is complete. If you're running an older version, I think 2013 said spelling and grammar check is complete. You are good to go. Something like that. So this 2016 has taken the you're good to go out, and they're just saying, hey, this is done. So when we click OK, what's going to happen is this little guy down here, this book with the X on it, is going to turn into a book with a check mark. And the check mark is just basically going to say, okay, we don't have any other problems that we see within this document. So I'm going to click OK. And here I've got the check mark. Okay, so now that kind of brings me to this other thing with spell check. Now, we had contextual errors and we had spelling errors. Not always does Microsoft Spell Check catch all of our errors, okay? So if I were to come over here and I could type something like the scarves are too shaggy to sell. Let's change that. Let's do this. Too shaggy to sell to the public. Okay, so see, that didn't even pop up. We know that we've used the instance of the word to incorrectly all 3 times. Okay, so the scarves are too shaggy to sell to the public. Okay, so we know that none of those are right, but it didn't catch it. Okay, we have a word that is spelled properly, but it's not used in the correct context. So what that means to you is it's always a good idea, even though your spell check has come back and said you are good, you have everything right here, you need to have another set of eyes take a look at your document, because even though it comes back okay, it might not be correct. And your brain can play tricks on you. If you have spent hours completing a document, completing a paper, completing a report, your brain can play that trick that says, okay, I'm seeing this because that's what you know it should be, but it's actually something else. So by having another set of eyes take a look at your document to proofread can help you out as far as those spelling and grammatical errors that might happen if you don't. Okay, so that's enough of that. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that spell check is great, it's wonderful, it's marvelous, but it doesn't catch everything. Okay, we can see that here in that last sentence that I just typed. Sometimes it'll catch it, sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll catch one or two, but it won't catch the third one. So you need to be fairly you need to be able to let someone else take a look and make sure that you're not having an issue with that. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because we don't need it. Okay, so now we've covered the ribbon, we have covered autocomplete, we've covered autocorrect, how word wrap works, line spacing, paragraph spacing. We have covered margins, inserting page numbers, centering, left align, right align, justifying text, indenting paragraphs, hanging indents for references. We have inserted a picture. We've talked about the insertion point. We have covered quite a bit of information, and the nice thing with this video is you can go back and you can re-watch it 2 or 3 times if you're missing something. I know it's quite lengthy video, but there's a lot of information here. So if you have any questions, make sure you contact your instructor, and she should be able to answer them for you. If you want to talk to me, that's fine too. Again, melissa.lenz@ghc.edu. I'm more than happy to answer questions pertaining to any of the videos that we've worked with up to now. So as always, have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining me. Goodbye.